This is Romo Dunze, and you're listening to the Ballsville Podcast.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome in, Ballsville gamers, to another episode of the Ballsville Podcast. I am your host, Scott Fitzgerald, a.k.a. Lutz for Sale, and this episode is brought to you by the Ballsville Games. Our games are combined fantasy football and poker, which create big payouts with great odds. All right, gang, we are in for our Tuesday pod. I will introduce you to my co-host. My co-host, S. Clem. He's Bill's Mafia. He is Sean. What's up, Sean?
Not much, my friend. Happy to be here.
And the good old boy from West Texas. He's down south. He goes by C-Bomb. What's up, Connor?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me again.
All right. And we are without Ken today. He had a prior engagement that was a lot more important than this one, but it involved a check every week, so he had to attend to that one. So a lot to unpack today. We have a lot of big news today. A lot of players on IR. Unfortunate. It's only been week 2, and there's already a lot of our fantasy players are off on IR, which is unfortunate. So as gamers, we just have to adjust, take the information that we're given, and make the best decision possible when it comes to spending our fab money out there on the waiver wire. So I'll run through some IRs. We all know CMC, he's on IR. Tua just went on IR today. We knew that was coming. Pacheco's on IR. He'll be out, obviously, with the leg injury. We have Cooper Kupp on IR now. He won't be eligible to come back till week 8. So very unfortunate. Some big names out. Some other injuries that kind of popped up. A.J. Brown's going to be out another week, possibly 2. And Joe Mixon's questionable for week 3. Debo's out for a couple weeks with his calf strain. Higgins looks like he might be ready to go for week 3, so that's some positive news. JJ is good to go, it looks like, for week 3. Addison's questionable for week 3. Ferguson should be back for week 3, and Evan Ingram's week to week. Some non-injury news. Bryce Young was benched. That we knew that all that was coming. And did I miss anything else? Oh, yeah. Love is a possibility this weekend, but I would say it was probably another week. He would have to practice this week, from what Mike LaFleur said, for him to be able to play this weekend. So I'm going to move over to Sean, and I'm going to say, Sean, what's out of all these injuries and all these players coming back, what's your take on all this?
It sucks, right? These are a lot of players that we picked early, so this is really hurting a lot of teams. You combine that with what happened with Puka and Cooper, and we're looking at, a lot of high-end fantasy players that have gotten knocked out early in the season this year, which is just another catalyst to lead to my point of draft running backs early, because there's so little of them that if they get hurt, you need a backup. I know C-Bomb's going to shake his head at this comment, but it's the truth. You got to make sure you're covered, bro. If your receiver gets hurt, there's plenty of options. Rashid Shaheed, various guys like that have been blown up that are available, that are going to have more of an opportunity than some third string running back that you need like an injury to the backup to actually get some viable carries. So, running backs are important. Get them early.
All right, Connor, can you please put Sean back in his place and know that the historical data suggests that wide receivers get injured less often than running backs?
Yeah, not only that, does anybody know the RB1?
My point, by the way, Scott. That comment proves my point even more. I'm just saying.
What's the RB1 this year, Sean? Do you know what round he's going in?
It's 1 because it's Breece Hall.
Yeah, what about RB2? You know where he's going?
1 because it's Bijan?
No. Actually, number 1 is Alvin Kamara this year so far. Number 2 is Devon Achane. Neither are going in the first 2 rounds.
I'm not looking at a 2-week sample and trying to call that gospel. All right.
What about J.K. Dobbins? He's a top 5 running back. He wasn't even going in the top 15 rounds.
That's 3 guys. That's
Jordan
3 guys.
Mason.
You're in a 12-team fantasy league. 3 guys. You're not going to get those 3 guys 90% of the time.
Jordan Mason, Ramondre Stevenson, These are
Jordan
top
Mason
5,
faced
top
some
10 running
injuries.
backs that
These
are
all
not doing it in
injury
the early
based.
rounds.
That's the whole point. If anything, that encourages my point more, either handcuff or cover, but don't leave yourself high and dry with a
Who was the
zero
first
RB
one?
scenario.
Who was the first running back taken off the board, Sean? How many points does he have so far?
That's just proving my point even more that depth is necessary.
Depth is necessary. So why not draft, CeeDee Lamb?
So depth is necessary. So don't draft one in the first 8 rounds and then
Just draft the running backs the first 10 rounds. Make sure you have depth at running back. You start to go running back, and then you'll just find late-round wide receivers.
So my point is fantasy can be won both ways. It could be a running back year, it could be a wide receiver year. But like I said, I agree with Sean's point as far as draft a lot of running backs, make sure you're covered. But yeah, I like to draft them late, like to C-Bomb's point. You could have got Kamara, Robinson, J.K. Dobbins. All these guys were
well, who's the number 1 wide receiver right now? Alex brings up a good point. Who's the top wide receivers right now? Because I believe Raheed Shaheed, who's another guy that came late like that, is also one of the top guys currently. So, if you're looking at it, it happens on both sides of the board as far as that's concerned.
The thing is Godwin, and then it's Nico Collins, Nate Neighbors.
Exactly.
Cooper Kupp.
Exactly. Godwin was a late round pick. It's the same thing happens on both positions. The thing, what I'm saying is there's less on the running back board. So you need to make sure you're covered on that board first and foremost, because you'll have a better opportunity to fill the wide receiver gap if that ends up being a need.
You still, in most of our Ballsville leagues, you have to play more wide receivers as well.
And that's a good point that Connor made, is you have to start 3 receivers. And I think if you could find a way to get 3 number 1s in your lineup, to go to battle with, I think that would be, just in my opinion, I think that's more valuable than having, 2 RBs and then just a bunch of random receivers, that you can get down the road. Yeah, you're going to have some guys pop off like Shaheed and this and that, but they're not going to be, I don't think they're going to be long-term.
So let's look at some opportunities though, like you're talking about, right? Like if you take 2 RBs to start your draft, your 3rd round pick, you're getting a guy like Devontae Smith, Drake London, that kind of a range. Cooper was going around there at the time. So that's your wide receiver 1, right? Like, are you really that much worse off to have that as your wide receiver 1 at this point, based on the guys that went in the first round and where they're scoring currently?
How about we just look at the teams in our mid-states league when we do that a little later and see how they drafted?
That's a good point. All right, let's I want to get to a few things with you guys, and I'm gonna go with since Sean's a running back guy. Sean, with Pacheco's injury and now with Kareem Hunt just signing with this team, how do you think this is going to shake up between Steele and Kareem Hunt? I know Kareem Hunt knows the offense. Steele's already gotten some run. They pretty much just got Hunt right from his couch. So it's going to take probably a week or so for him to physically get back involved. But waivers is tonight, tomorrow in some leagues. Who are you prioritizing?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna look to fill that hole with a different team. I'm not gonna chase the Kansas City Chief back at this point. I just don't think that any of them are gonna get enough of a pull to be better than like your potential RB3 that's on your squad from your draft, or somebody else that you might be able to make a trade for. So I'm not 100% targeting them, right? Like, I'll give you a good example. Like this week specifically, if you want to play it a week-to-week basis, like a guy like Alexander Madison, I would probably pick him up over either of those 2 guys to play this week if I need to fill a hole for this week, because they're playing Carolina. Madison's been getting enough of a tote in that offense that it makes it a worthwhile play for this week. So, I might roll with the more week-to-week basis or play my 3rd back that I have drafted. Like one league I have Jaylen Warren, so it's hard for me to play either of them over him currently. So like scenarios like that, I don't think they're going to be that valuable. I don't think it's going to be that much of a full-on workload for one guy to make them be valuable enough to pick up and then put on your lineup, unless you're in like a dire straits scenario.
I can't hear.
Oh, Scott. So Scott's missing out. So Scott is having some technological difficulties right now. So I'll go ahead and take over until he can get his situation squared away. But so you got anything to add to that, Connor? Anything that you can throw in that mix that we were talking about there?
Yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree with you. I think Perrine is probably maybe the most valuable guy just from a PPR standpoint.
Sorry, guys, I had some technical difficulties there. I'm good now.
No problem.
I was just talking about, Oatmeal Pants, Samaje Perine. Somebody was talking about him right before the season. Maybe you should pick him up. I wonder who that might have been. But I think he has a little bit of fantasy value just from the PPR perspective. He's going to be getting some passes.
That said that earlier in the season, I can understand why you say that now.
What'd you say?
So based on who it was that said that earlier in the season, C-Bomb, I can see why you say that now.
Exactly. I mean, Carson still hasn't looked that great when he's ran the rock so far this season.
He runs like a fullback, man. He sticks his head down and he runs for like a 4 or 5 yard run, and that's about all you're going to get. He's not that guy who's going to look for the cut and find the hole. He just plow.
I think his role probably gets taken by Kareem Hunt anyway when he gets there, like Alex said. I still think Perrine is going to have that, that passing back.
I think they roll into more of a committee role with the guys that they have. Kareem is probably your first and second down guy. Carson's your short yardage, and Samaje is your passing. And the three of them together are not going to make enough of a fantasy dent to be worth it.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna. I think I'm gonna be be on Sean's side. I'm just gonna totally avoid that backfield now that Hunt signed. I'm not gonna waste fab on guys that I don't know who's gonna get the rock week to week. I think it's gonna be committee, and I think it's just gonna it has to be. Mahomes hasn't played very well the last couple games. I mean, he gets paid all that money, so now it's time for you to put the team on your shoulders, and I think it's going to be a massive passing offense now. With sprinkling a little bit of running, but it's going to be all
Kelsey takes a big bump. Absolutely,
it's going to be all Mahomes now in that passing game. So
I have a question for you guys before you move forward. What do you think between the two, Kareem Hunt or Braylon Allen? Who would you target in the waivers this week?
Braylon Allen,
without a question.
He was getting probably like around 40% of the work, maybe a little bit less, maybe like 35. But and he had like a lot of passing. He caught passes out of the backfield, had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. So I'm not sure it's really close there, honestly. If Allen's not picked up in a Ballsville league, I will be putting a lot of fab on him.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy I immediately started searching. Right. Yeah, pretty much all Ballsville pretty much has him. So I mean, whoever was the owners that were smart enough to draft him. That was a great pick. I mean, he looks like a monster out there. I mean, I don't think he's going to dig into too much of Hall's. I don't expect any
they
more.
They were playing them together. That's what was really like something I was excited to see is they actually had them on the field at the same time. So
I wouldn't go so overboard on him though. I mean, he'll have a little bit of standalone value, but if you're like zero RB drafter, but don't think this is going to be like a weekly occurrence because
he could be a great handcuff. Like anytime, Brees goes down with a minor injury or whatever, he could be a top tier, like a Jordan Mason.
I also think like if you got a good matchup against like a defense that's solid and you're in that boat where you're streaming RB2 now because you're waiting for Pacheco or McCaffrey or something, I think he's a good guy to throw in against a really crappy defense because, they'll get the opportunities to him in that scenario, in my opinion. So, if you're streaming guys and you're making those moves every week to week, like follow their matchups and see if he's available at some point, snag him, especially if you're on one of those leagues that has a, somewhat of a shallow bench. So that the waiver wire is a little bit steeper. Yeah, you might be able to find the little gem in the rough to make it past a week or two.
Right. Okay. So another situation that just got real crazy is the Rams wide receiving core. So Kupp's on IR.
What wide receiving core?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Kupp's on IR. Stafford got killed this weekend. The ship is sinking very fast for the Rams. I'm just staying away from that. I mean, I do have a few Tyler Johnson shares, but are you guys? We'll go with Connor first. Are you even touching any of these other secondary players, or you just like passing?
I like Demarcus Robinson. I think he had a big 50-yard catch. That was mostly his workload for the last game. But
do you think they move him out of the slot and into more of an X or Y role because of because of the scenario going on with the other two out?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I think he might play the whole game at all the positions, honestly. I think he's probably their most talented receiver, and that's not saying a lot, honestly. But they don't have much. I think Tyler Johnson, somebody commented Whittington. I'm not a big fan of Whittington. He didn't catch my eye. He had a couple of rushing, some screens to him during that game, but I'm not really never going to play him unless I'm dying at, I have Debo out, AJ Brown, Cup, all of those guys are out and I have to play somebody, but Demarcus Robinson is the only one I'm comfortable playing.
What about you, Sean?
I'd agree with that for now, but I think as far as picking up a guy, especially if you're in an injury scenario, I definitely think rostering any one of those three receivers is a good way to go, just to have them available, because Sean McVay is one of those types of coaches that can scheme players into positions to be successful. So, somebody like a Whittington who has obvious, talent, skill set as far as his physical ability, Sean McVay can scheme ways for him to be a successful player for a year. So I don't think that they're people that you would avoid altogether. I just don't think I agree with the fact that I would not consider starting them until I see a little bit more. Now that Cup and Puka are out, I want to see at least a week or two of those guys being gone, because the injuries they have, they're not guaranteed to come back this season and be consistent, players or stay healthy. Those injuries are types of injuries that could linger. So it doesn't mean that these guys are just going to be completely useless the moment these other guys show back up.
It sucks to be talking about this in week 2, honestly. To be talking about, Tutu Atwell, we got commented down there. We got Whittington commented. These guys are not
so many guys that we were excited to see. Yeah. There was Stafford, everybody was hyped on as a late round QB2. Kyron was an late first or early second round pick. Puka was the same. Cup moved all the way up to the top third by the end of the draft season. These are all guys everybody was excited to see.
Yeah, especially Cup after what he did last week, or I guess, the first week of the year. 18 targets, 32 fantasy points. He was looking as a league winner, and then he goes down in the second quarter of the game this week. And it's just wow.
Jim brings up a good point. We haven't mentioned Atwell. What do you guys think about Tutu?
Yeah.
I'm just avoiding receiving core. I guess I would agree with a little bit with Connor about maybe Robinson and maybe a little bit of Tyler Johnson, but like I said, the ship's sinking. And Stafford has no time to pass, so I would just avoid that situation.
That's a huge part of it too.
I would rather. He's getting killed, and there's other guys I think you can pick up on the waiver wire. I like Juwan Jennings this week. Now that Debo's going to be out a couple weeks, I'd rather pick up him and start him over any of those other receivers. I would just avoid that. I got 2 more receiving situations I want to go over with you guys. So I'll start with Connor because it's his team. So we all saw what happened with the Packers. When Willis is out there, they totally went to a different game plan, all running, no passing. So going forward until Love comes back, can you start any of these receivers?
Not like a wide receiver one. You thought Jaden Reed, especially after week 1, he was going to be a dominant wide receiver one. It's not somebody that you're looking for to win your matchup. Hopefully you can get a few targets here and there, maybe catch a touchdown pass, but definitely not starting any Christian Watson. Definitely not starting Dontayvion Wicks. If you have them,
was on purpose, right?
Oh yeah. Exactly. I was seeing if y'all was gonna say anything, but there's no coverage here no more. They let it set in. But
that's because our throats are too full of feathers from all the crow we've been eating.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help either when you're starting quarterbacks out.
Yeah,
100%.
But Jacobs looks good. They won the game surprisingly. I thought, I don't know what the betting line was, but I'm sure they were underdogs against a Colts team that looked really good week 1 against Houston.
It was -3 because I took the Colts and freaking lost. So
Yeah.
I mean, all the favorites lost this week. If you were underdog better, you cleaned up.
We went all the way down to 14 players left in our last man standing after this week because of that game. That was a big factor. That and the Ravens loss. Those were the two big ones.
All right, Sean, I'm going to talk about another receiving situation. So now that Tua's on IR, we have this Skylar Thompson experience coming up. He's already been named the starter. So you can't sit Tyreek Hill. I mean, one catch could go for a touchdown. So, I mean, what about Waddle, though? Like, I'm trying to debate whether or not I should sit him this weekend and play, like, Calvin Ridley over him, T. Higgins over him. What do you think?
It's a tough decision. It really is, man. Waddle's the guy that I think from this to an injury is going to be the most affected, I would say. You know, I think in a negative way. I guess Achane will probably be just as affected, but probably in a positive way. I definitely think that Waddle's the guy that you would be most concerned about in that receiving core. I would probably, I mean, the guys you mentioned, I'd probably still stick with Waddle over them based on the fact that Tyler Huntley came on board, and I do anticipate Tyler Huntley being better than what Skylar Thompson was. So, you know, I don't think he's that downgraded, but I do think that he's close. So if you did decide to do that, I wouldn't hate you for it. You know, it's kind of in that realm. So you mentioned Waddle, and I have a question for you guys because this is a situation that I'm actually currently in, and I'm curious to see your opinion on it. So I'm in a boat where I had Pacheco and I had Puka on a league, which put me in a situation that I have two guys on IR now on my bench that I have to figure out how to work this because I don't have IR spots in this league. So I have the opportunity maybe to trade Puka for Waddle straight up right now. Would you guys make that move based on everything that's going on? Or would you stick with Puka and wait it out for a few more weeks? Because I do have enough receiver depth to cover until he's back.
It depends on how much depth you're talking about here. I mean, I would trade him for Waddle personally, just because I'm not even sure. I think Sean McVay said that Puka's going to miss more than just the IR 4 games. He's probably going to miss 5 or 6 at minimum. So
they have a bye week 6, and that would be week 5 of his injury would be that week 6 bye. So I'm anticipating he's back week 7 after that 5-week break. But you know,
you never know production dip or anything like that.
So
yeah, you never know the production dip or anything like that when he gets back either. But I personally would probably make that deal just because you don't want to, waste your 5 weeks, hoping like, wow, Waddle's really turned into the guy there, maybe checks downs a little bit more. I don't know. I think the biggest, winner of the Tua injury is Achane,
Oh yeah,
he looked really good.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, so
that's a no-brainer. Achane definitely. On top of that, with Mostert still kind of questionable for this week, like Achane is he's a top 5 RB this week. I think.
Yeah, I think I would go with the Waddle. I just think that, like Connor said, the Puka injury could linger into the season like Kupp did last year, and then do you want to deal with that? Let somebody else deal with that headache. Waddle, they can still manufacture short touches to Waddle, short touches to Hill. It only takes one reception to take it to the house. Those guys have speed. I'm pretty sure McDaniel's not going to be, knows where his bread's buttered, and he's going to get the ball in the hands of his speedy, playmakers, even though he doesn't have the quarterback. So, I mean, Thompson doesn't have to throw the ball 30, 40 yards downfield. He can just throw a 5-yard smoke screen, handoff, a reverse, something to manufacture touches for those guys. So I would definitely take the Waddle side in that situation. Okay, I'm going to talk about one more thing before we move on. So, have we had enough of Bryce Young? I mean, is it over?
Oh my God,
this guy.
I think it's over for him to be considered a solid starting option as a future franchise, build around quarterback. I think that's over. I think he'll be maybe a great backup, at this point. I just don't see him as like a future starter or like a Sam Darnold like stopgap at the best. And that's like hoping that the man turns it around, because everything I've seen from him is horrible. It's just tire fire.
Anything, Connor?
I disagree. I think he hasn't really been given a shot. I think he's been into year 2 now. He has 18 games under his belt, but it's 3 different offenses.
First couple games though. I mean,
it's 3 different, but it's 3 different offenses. It's, you know, a whole the cast around him is just not like they traded more first away, trading CMC, DJ Moore, and Brian Burns than they've gotten back from those guys. That they're starting Andy Dalton, who's not going to be a quarterback of the future. There's really no reason to even bench Bryce Young. You're not going to win with either.
No, I agree with that. I think they should just play his ass, go 0-16 and get the first pick and be happy as hell that they got their new future quarterback without having to trade away the farm for him.
Yeah,
but,
I don't see the like why make this move. Like they're not, they're not.
Coach. Is a scared coach who doesn't want to lose his job after year 1, because this owner is fucking volatile and he's proven it. So if they lose 3 more games, especially if they lose as bad as they've lost, promise you this fucker doesn't make it through the end of the year.
I think they lose regardless who's at quarterback. Their team is just not good around any. Their defense is not good.
Their O-line is atrocious.
Exactly.
Atrocious. Like it's so bad. Like these guys are on top of him. Like he can't even get to the back step of a 7-step drop back without having to fucking backpedal. Like it's ridiculous, man. It's just straight backpedal the moment you get the ball from under center.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Bryce Young was good at Alabama. He played against SEC defenses. I don't think all of that talent just went away because he's playing in the NFL. I think
I just don't think he's
arm talent.
To me, he's like Kyler without that it factor. And if you're that size and you're just kind of like ho hum, like it doesn't matter how accurate you can be or how good you can be in certain scenarios. I just don't think he can physically keep up.
I view him like the same I view Baker. Like when Baker got in the league, he was with the Browns. That was absolutely terrible. And they were
Baker came out his rookie season and proved that he had something.
And then he got kicked out of the league 2 years later because people thought, basically the same thing.
Because he got full of himself and he had to be humbled.
Yeah,
that happens to some people.
I just view him the same way. And then he played for the Rams a little bit, and then they're like, "No, we don't really want you." And then
I don't think that's a fair comparison.
And battling with Kyle Trask at the beginning of the last year was Baker Mayfield. I mean, like just a year ago today, basically, maybe a little bit longer than a year ago, we thought Kyle Trask is going to be the QB of the Buccaneers.
I mean, all that considered, I just can't see like if that was Bryce Young, him being able to do what Baker's done. I personally don't see that. Do you, Scott? Do you think that that's an option?
Well, I mean, I didn't really like Young coming out of college. I mean, he played well in Alabama, but there, remember, there's a lot of Alabama players. Not all of them come out and are good. A lot of them are busts.
DJ McCarron
out, and they're busts. So I don't really invest in midget quarterbacks. I mean, he's been very, very inaccurate. I mean, he doesn't have time to pass, but he's not hitting his receivers. And the one thing he's not doing that he did in college, which I'd like to see a little more if he can't throw the ball, is he's not running. So if you're not going to run, if you're inaccurate as a passer, you're not going to win games. You're not going to move the ball down the field. And the coach is like, look, I didn't draft this guy. I have no ties to this guy. I'm trying to save my job. So you know what? We're going to lose anyways. We're going to suck. So I'm just going to put this guy on the bench, try to win some games.
Yep.
Which I don't think
what he's trying to do is prove that he wants to prove his system works with somebody. I've got a guy who's like a cast off, and he's making my system work to this level. Get me a good guy, and I can prove to you my system is amazing. So
I think it's good. I think it's good that he did bench him because it kind of proves Sean's point a little bit. If Dalton, who's not a quarterback killer, but he is a veteran, if he can go in and run the offense efficiently, then why can't Young do it?
I mean, I think the two different, like you said, Bryce Young in college ran the ball. I think that's part of the scheme of this coach is for Bryce Young not to run the ball. I think that's a lot of what is happening to Bryce Young is coaching. Like this is not just his first coach. This is not his second coach. This is his third different complete different offense that he's been enshrined with in the NFL already in a year and a half in the league, not even. So I think a lot of what y'all are seeing in Bryce Young is not his talent, it's the coaching around him, it's the team around him.
I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that came into the league and went through 2 or 3 systems and they were still able to pick it up. I just think it's just, like I said, if Dalton can go in there and run the offense with the same offensive line, the same weaponry around him, if he can legitimately move the ball down the field, then Bryce Young's not the answer. And if, like you said, if Canales is running a certain system and doesn't want, Young to run and doesn't want a mobile quarterback and wants a statue back there, then he has the wrong quarterback. He needs to go draft a pocket passer and not a mobile guy. So
exactly. And he didn't draft this quarterback for his system, like you said. Like his system might require a totally different style of QB. And this is why it looked like shit. And he's like, you know what? I need to get somebody who can at least understand my system to be at the helm of it in order to show my owner that I'm worth keeping around for a year because my system is doable. I just need the right players.
What are the odds that actually happens? What do we think they win any games? Do we think they beat the New York Giants?
I think they're more competitive. I do think they're more competitive with Andy Dalton back there because Andy Dalton has proven that he can be a competent quarterback. So I think he'll get the ball out quick because he'll know the situation. He'll get the ball out quick. I think you'll see Adam Thielen take a little bit of a bump up because he's also got that savvy style of play where I think he'll understand the situation and him and Andy will develop a connection based on the fact that they both know where they're at. And I think Leggett will get a couple of shots down the field because Andy's never been scared to toss it up. And so, I think it'll be better for them. I don't think it'll be great. It'll be better. So, it's worth like hanging on to a guy like Deontay Johnson. Don't just drop him. Like keep him on your bench and see what happens now because it might benefit him. He's a guy who gets open quick, and that's the type of situation that they need in that offense. So hopefully, it turns around a little.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Young just doesn't have any confidence. Dalton has nothing to lose. He comes in, he can run the offense, and Young might be in a situation a year or two from now where it's like Justin Fields. Maybe he needs a new, a new stadium to play in. Maybe he needs a new, get into a system where they want a mobile quarterback. That
we don't talk about this shit ever, but like these guys live in this area, right? So like this kid was drafted like face of the franchise, savior, coming in here to and he was probably treated like gold for the first 6 months, and then things turned sour. And now, this guy has to live in the same neighborhood. And like, can you imagine what it's like to have every single person that you walk by know who you are and give you an evil eye or not be happy with the way you're performing? We don't have to do that.
This is still Carolina we're talking about. There's not, there's no diehards out there.
That's not the point. That's not the point, man. The point is like you can't go in as a star football player like he was, drafted 1 overall like he was, like you can't walk around without being recognized by a certain amount of people at a certain point. So it still affects you on a daily level is what I'm trying to get at. So this guy's confidence is probably shot living in that. He needs that fresh like opportunity. The same thing I think happened to Darnold in New York. Like they sometimes they just need that fresh opportunity because they come out early nowadays and they don't get a ton of play in college and they end up maybe not being ready and they need more time. And if they get thrown to the wolves and we're a fickle fan base, all of us, like we'll turn on a player after a few years real quick and want to move on to the next guy if we don't think that they're going to be the future.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll move on to we're going to do something a little bit different this week. We're not going to go through like all the games. We'll target some like high scoring games. We're going to go through and talk about like the top fantasy performers of the week and kind of correlate that with some of the games and do some analysis on that. So,
and some pub sub bets that we have on some of these guys.
So we're going to go right to the quarterbacks and so I'll just read off the top 10 of the week real quick, and then I'll go over a few things. So we got Kyler at number 1, Hurts at number 2, Carr at 3, Darnold 4, Mayfield 5, Daniel Jones 6, Geno 7, Kirk Cousins 8, Joe Burrow 9, and Lamar at 10. So what I'm looking at here is obviously I'm looking at that an offense that I'm really, really excited to see going forward, and that's Arizona Cardinals. I mean, if you look at this week's, leaders, Murray was the number 1 quarterback. James Conner was the number 7 running back. Marvin Harrison was the number 1 receiver, and then Trey McBride was the number 4 tight end. So this offense is going to be super exciting to watch. Can't wait to like follow them going forward. So that's real big. Big as far as the some high scoring games. We have Jalen Hurts obviously at number 2, Derek Carr. I'll eat some crow on that one. Me and Ken had a bet, and nobody in the whole world besides Ken probably would make a bet like that. Derek Carr going into Dallas and doing that to the Cowboys. And the NFL, I have so many little sayings for the NFL, and the NFL to me is called the National Fake You Out League, because this was a total fake out. The Saints going into Dallas and doing that to that defense. So, Darnold looked good. I said Daniel Jones was going to have a pretty good game. I said if he's going to do it, he'd have to do it this week against.
Wait a minute. When have you ever said Daniel Jones was going to have a good game?
He did.
The last pot. I did. The last pot, I said if he's going to do it, he's got to do it this game. So it's matched up for him to have a good game. We got to start talking about Geno now being a legit QB1. I mean, he's had 2 weeks in a row. He's had a great performance. So he's a guy that.
What about Derek Carr? You want to talk about Geno? What about Derek Carr being a legit QB1?
Oh yeah, I just mentioned him, so I'll get to you guys, and so go ahead. I'll start with you, Sean. Take out of those 10 quarterbacks. Which one do you thought? Which one do you want to talk about? Which one do you think was the best?
I mean, I think I gotta go with Carr right now. I mean, I have to do it. Like after week 1, I was like, this flash in the pan. They're playing Carolina. We'll see what happens when they come up against Micah and Dallas. They did the same damn thing, so I can't argue it anymore. I gotta go with Derek. I gotta give the reemergence of Derek Carr, baby.
Sean, he had 16 attempts.
It doesn't matter, brother. He had shitload of fucking points. He's the QB1 right now in fantasy. You can't argue.
Okay. All right. I'll go to Connor. Connor, which quarterback stood out to you? I know.
I mean, it's obviously Kyler.
Yeah, you're going to say the right quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he had like a perfect passer rating for the game. Anything he did.
Oh my God, they played a broken ass LA team. Come on.
I mean, I just want to say I put a pub sub on Kyler being a top 3 QB. It's looking nice. I won't count.
I did not remember that at all, and it was absolutely not why I didn't choose Kyler.
I won't count my chickens because there's still a lot of games left. I don't think Derek Carr stays in the top 5. I probably don't even still have him in the top 10. I still think they have stuff to prove over there. That was a great game they played against Dallas. Dallas played terribly on both sides of the ball. Yeah. Dak looked frustrated. CD looked really frustrated, not just on plays that he got or not just on plays he didn't get the ball. He's usually, a little bit celebratory when he gets first downs or anything like that, and he really wasn't. So
CD was skipping.
Trade Lance to the Panthers. Yeah, right. Who do y'all want, Lance or Bryce Young? I think there's 2 great options there. I don't know which one I would want, but yeah, I think Kyler's. I mean, he's been one of my top picks in all my drafts so far. So I was really excited to see that. I hope it can keep moving forward. This game was exactly what I thought.
Flash in the pan.
This game is exactly what I thought the Carolina's offense would look like. Marvin Harrison getting targets, getting touchdowns. Trey McBride getting a lot of targets.
Arizona's offense.
Arizona's offense.
What did I say?
You said Carolina.
Oh, yeah. This is exactly what I thought Carolina's offense would look like. No, Arizona's offense is, and James Conner, getting some work both in the pass game and the run game. Arizona looked a team to beat last week. I mean, I know it was against a Rams team that is missing a lot of guys, but I mean, they looked really good. So
no,
not against the Bills, baby. Let's go.
They looked really good in the first half against the Bills too. I mean, They were
Oh,
kicking.
yeah.
the
Well,
butt
that's because
the
it was
first half.
Josh Allen's preseason.
I know. I think Arizona is going to be an exciting team to watch forward, and I'd look out for them. Another quarterback that we got to talk about. I mean, he's it's Sam Darnold. I mean, another good game. They went out, they beat the freaking Niners. You can't say that the Niners. I mean, yeah, they're missing McCaffrey, but they've
Right.
shown that they can.
Right after the Niners demolished who again? The Jets.
Exactly, the Jets. But I mean, that bomb he threw to Jefferson. I mean, he hit him in stride. So,
Yeah, that was
I
nice.
think, Daniels or Darnold's looks like now. Is it Darnold or is it O'Connell? I mean, O'Connell, he's looking like he's the quarterback whisperer. I mean,
I think
anybody?
it's a combination.
Yeah.
And that offense. I think he's a combination of that offense. I mean, he has weapons around him that.
Well, that's O'Connell. You know what I mean? I think O'Connell built that offense based on the weapons.
I'm not sure Justin Jefferson is O'Connell. Sorry. I think
No,
that's
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he's utilizing Justin Jefferson in the exact way you should utilize Justin Jefferson.
But in all reality, he doesn't really have any weapons right now. He's got Jefferson. He's out with no Addison, no Hawkinson. He's got an old Aaron Jones, and I mean they're playing very well. So yeah, I think this might be a lot to do with the coaching. And I think he's a great coach. So I'm definitely surprised.
Where do you rank him in the coaching ranks right now? Do you put him in the top 5? It's tough, right?
I mean,
top five's pretty high for.
Yeah, it's pretty
a
high.
guy that hasn't won anything too much.
I know. I mean, you got to put Andy up there, right? You got to put.
You got to. I feel you got to make the playoffs. So you got to find a way to get in the playoffs before you
Tomlin got to be up there. You know,
top 5, 6.
What do you think of who do you have higher right now, him or Bucks coach? I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now for some reason, but where do you go?
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles, yeah.
Well, Todd Bowles is more of a defensive guy. I've always liked to, steer towards the offensive minded coaches. I mean, Bowles is doing a great job, but I mean, is it Bowles or is it Baker? I mean, Baker's just, and I was going to talk about Baker next. So let's get into Baker. I mean, the candlestick maker is going to work. I mean, you go to Detroit, even though Hutchinson sacked you 5 times, they he's hitting Godwin, out of the slot. You still got Mike Evans. I mean, they're not even really running the ball that good. It's been all Baker.
Yeah.
And
amazing what a little humble pie will do for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to put, Baker's been, I mean, it's left over from last year, playoffs and then into the regular season. So, what do you guys think about Baker?
Baker's looked great. Rashad White has not. I mean, I think he has more rushing attempts than he has rushing yards or something crazy like that. And so I think Baker Mayfield has more rushing yards than Rashad White. But besides that, I mean, Baker's looked great. Godwin has looked amazing in the slot. I mean, I think Mike Evans didn't get very many targets because Godwin was just eating them all up last week. He couldn't stay. I mean, he stayed open the whole game. So that offense has looked great. Besides White, Bucky Irvings came in and looked good in spots. So,
and then one more quarterback I want to get to before we move on to the running backs, and I'll go to Sean on this one. What about give it up to Kirky? Kirky looked boring the whole freaking game, and then all of a sudden he woke up that last drive and just was like vintage. You like that out of the like that.
Yeah, it really put a rink in our pod last night too. I
know. We were watching. We're supposed to be doing a pod, and we're wasting the first 15 minutes watching the game because it got so exciting. So, what do you think about Kirky?
I mean, he definitely looked like he was coming back a little towards the end, but like again, he had quite a few passes that were just like barely making it there. Like they just seemed to fall like 10 yards short of what he was trying to get. So it scares me because I'm not 100% sure that he's healthy yet. And he's saying everything, but I mean, he's not showing it. So Drake London specifically had a pass across the middle. We talked about this yesterday. It looked like Drake London caught that in stride, and it could have been an 80-yard touchdown. It was that open of a pass. And he just short-armed it, and Drake had to slide like a baseball player to snag the ball off the ground. So, he made the catch, but he didn't have any opportunity to get any yaks. So that's, to me, that is frustrating and scary. Because it worked last night against an Eagles team that, again, we talked about this. I thought they were going to get blown out in Green Bay. I do not think the Eagles are going to be as good as everybody anticipates. And, I don't think that this win really means a lot as you look at it like 5 weeks from now.
Got you. All right, we'll just go real quick of just some crappy performances, and it looks like A-Rich kind of came back to earth a little bit.
Killed me.
Justin Herbert's been pretty underwhelming too. Dak didn't have a very good game, and then like I said earlier in the pod, I mean Patrick Mahomes is not playing like Pat Mahomes. So now with this,
don't forget Josh Allen. He had a bad game too on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean
he scored a lot of points, but his overall fantasy score, I mean, I think it was like 14 points or something.
Yeah, when you have your running back, every time he touched the ball, it goes for 50. It's kind of hard to have a great game as quarterback.
Yeah, but so there were definitely some underwhelming performances for the quarterback. So we'll get into running backs now. Top 10 running backs.
Let's hear the first one. I want to hear the first one on this one too.
So AC Alvin Kamara with those with that platinum smile, he's in at number 1. Devin Achan's in at 2. Cooks 3. Breece Hall's at 4. J.K. Dobbins is at 5. Braylon Allen in at 6. So a couple Jets in the top 6. James Conner, Zach Charbonnet, Saquon, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
That tells you the drop off from the top 5 or the top 4 down. If you got 2 running backs in the same squad like that, and it wasn't like they had blowout games, it's pretty crazy. It shows you the top 4 running backs really made a difference this week.
Yep. So we're gonna go to I'll go to Connor first because I know he has a lot of shares of Kamara.
Yep.
I want to ask you one question.
Do you feel lucky?
If you're loaded at running back, and you're weak at receiver, are you dangling Kamara out there for can you trade him for a St. Brown, for a Chase, for a Jefferson?
I don't think any of those owners are smart. I mean, they're too smart to be getting those players.
Maybe Drake London.
Yeah, maybe Drake London. Maybe a Malik Neighbors is somebody.
Garrett Wilson.
I think Jarrett Wilson's price is so going to be too high. He looks like the only viable wide receiver in that offense. And if you watch the end of that game, him and Rodgers really clicked on that last drive. Hit a couple back shoulders and stuff like that. I think that's going to. I mean, you got to remember this. That was Rodgers' second game with Garrett Wilson, and they were looking really good towards the end. So,
second game in 3 plays.
True, but I don't think he had any passing play. I mean, the one passing play got sacked and tore his Achilles on game 1. But
and who were they playing again?
Wow, you're going to celebrate injuries over here? Didn't they
I'm
lose
just
that
going to
game?
celebrate victories, baby.
I think they lost that game.
Oh, God, you're right. They did lose that game.
They lost on punt return.
You're right. You lost to Zach Wilson. That was very frustrating.
Yeah, that's when Jarrett Wilson made that amazing catch too. But back on some Kamara, I mean, he was my favorite running back to draft this year. I think I did it on a couple pods. I was like, I can't believe he's fallen this far. They have no running back too. He's getting almost every carry besides a couple third down short ones to Jamal Williams, who's not fantasy relevant at all, really. He's getting a lot of passing action. Derek Carr has dropped it down to him quite a bit. Olave's been underwhelming. It's either been really Shaheed deep or Kamara short. So Kamara's looked great.
All right, Sean, I'm going to go to you. We're not going to talk about James Cook. We all know he ripped off 3 touchdowns. He had a great game. So I'm not going to bore the audience with you just, gloating about James Cook. But I'm going to go to another running back who, in the second straight week, has had a tremendous game. We were waiting for
You're going to bring me Dobbins, aren't you?
Which running back was going to emerge, and it looks like it's not going to be Gus Bust. So it's J.K. Dobbins. So, I mean, is this sustainable the rest of the year? I mean, he looks pretty damn good.
I mean, it's sustainable until his knees decide to take a break. Like, it's not going to be anything else. Like, it's exactly what you anticipated with J.K. Dobbins. Extremely good talent. If he's healthy, he's totally worth a start, and he could get hurt at any moment. So just be prepared. Like, there's really it doesn't change the scope of anything. I always thought he was the most talented back in that backfield going in. I think I mentioned it a few times earlier on in the pod that out of that group, I did like him. He was just so fresh off the injury. Nobody wanted to listen to me. So I definitely think that he's a worthy carry and he's a start until he gets hurt.
Got you. And then real quick, I mean, Barkley had another good game. I mean, he dropped that pass at the end of the game that cost them the victory.
Not only did it cost him the victory, not only did it cost him the victory, I'm playing Sean in a 14-man league. He catches that ball. I win the matchup. He drops that ball. I lose the matchup. And guess what?
Well, I lost a 25-yard receiving prop bet on that last play too. Freaking dropped it. It was a walk. So I wasn't too happy about that. But other than that,
you can see his reaction live if you listen to the Guillotine pod recording.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. It was just like, I was so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? He catches that ball like 99 out of 100 times. So, but I'm going to go to Connor. Do you think?
Look at Trevor, since Sean hated Cook before the season. I did not hate Cook. All right. I just did not think he was solidified until I saw him run the ball these first 2 weeks. Now,
I just told you that to draft.
Solidified.
But I'm gonna go to Connor. Connor, do you think there's a real good chance that Barkley could finish the number one running back at the end of the year?
He's looked great. I mean, in the first half, he was averaging like 10 yards a carry against Atlanta. I think they went away from it a little bit. I'm not sure why, but he looked amazing in the first half. He had one touchdown taken away from the tush push. I wish they would have ran Barkley, but I knew that was going to happen, honestly.
Jason Kelce in the booth, they're not going to not run the tush push. Yeah,
and so I think Barkley's probably the best bet right now to finish RB1. Breece Hall has looked great. Kamara has looked great. Those are probably the top three, in my opinion, right now as it stands. So,
yeah, the thing with those two, Kamara and Barkley, is they're not sharing with anybody. So I mean, it's all them. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what it looks like in about week 8. See if Kamara can keep this going along with Barkley. All right, we'll go over to the wide receivers. We'll go to the top 10. Marvin Harrison Jr., Monster Day. He's number 1. DK Metcalf, number 2. Malik Neighbors with his 18 targets comes in at number 3. Big burly Nico Collins comes in at number 4. We got Devontae Adams, believe it or not, comes in at number 5. We've already talked about Chris Godwin. He comes in at number 6. Calvin Ridley with the rushing and receiving touchdown comes in at number 7. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, 16 targets. Where were you week 1? We're definitely going to talk about him. Justin Jefferson, number 9, and then Amon-Ra comes back to fruition at number 10. So let's go right to I'm gonna hit 2 guys. I'm gonna hit Marvin Harrison and I'm gonna hit Malik Neighbors. And these 2 guys,
you're gonna take my neighbor?
Look, they looked awesome. 2 guys that are in different situations with their quarterbacks, but I'll save Neighbors for Sean, and I'll go right to Marvin Harrison for Connor. So you got to be super happy about that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great. I mean, he caught the first 2 passes were long touchdowns, and I think the only thing is we're still getting a little worried about his target share. I think he only had like 4 targets that game. I think 2 of them went for touchdowns, and that saved his score. But I'm still a little bit worried about his target share.
Targets.
All right.
Target.
He had 4 receptions. Sorry, but still a little bit worried about that. I thought he'd have a little bit more. I mean, Neighbors is getting high volume of that offense as he should. Hopefully, Marvin Harrison puts out like this every week and not week 1 where everybody was worried about his sprint speed for whatever reason. So,
I think Marvin Harrison's going to be a more of a better best ball scenario than a redraft scenario because of that. I totally agree. I think that Marvin's going to have his flash games and they're going to be amazing when they come, but consistency wise, I think Neighbors is the way to go. If you want a guy that you're going to start every week without a concern, I think Neighbors is that guy. He's 10 to 15 targets a game, pretty much guaranteed.
So Sean, is Neighbors quarterback proof then?
I mean, I would say so, kind of. If you had, as much as you hate DJ, it looks like I could get out there and throw him the ball and he'll be able to snag it. So, if that's the case, then you got to go with Neighbors, right? Like he's just, It's not only the fact that he's quarterback proof, it's that team does not have the weapons around him that Marvin does. Like Marvin has targets being taken by Trey McBride. You know, Greg Dortch has got legit calls for him, like legit plays called for him. So, you know, Kyler is the type of guy who will run the ball a lot too. So there's targets that are going to be heading in other directions in Arizona's offense. Whereas in New York's offense, I mean, they got him and they got Wandale. You know, Devin Singletary is good, but he's not great. And there's really nobody else at all that's going to challenge them for more than 2 or 3 targets a game. So if you're throwing the ball 30 to 35 times a game, which I anticipate since they're probably losing most of their matchups, how are you not going to give him at least a third of those?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a great point. The way Arizona looked last week, they could be up in a lot of games, especially against these bad teams. But the Giants are just, I don't know very many games where they're going to be running the ball because they're up. So
Okay, so to another big burly receiver, Michigan man, Nico Collins. I mean, can we put to bed who the number 1 receiver is in Houston?
Absolutely.
I don't want to hear this
Absolutely.
you know, the Tank Dell truthers anymore. You know, I don't want to hear anything else. I mean, Nico Collins, he's the man. He's the go-to guy. What do you guys think about that situation?
I think I've been eating so much Dan Crow that it's nice to have somebody that I can actually brag about, that I've been on from day one that was the number 1 in that offense. So it feels good.
Yeah, I've been big on Nico. I mean, especially later in the offseason, but I thought Stephon Diggs would be a little bit more. I don't think he didn't really get many targets that game. I think he had 1 big 3rd down conversion. That was about it that I remember.
CJ's going to throw it to the open guy, and Nico is more often the open guy.
Yeah. And I mean, Tank Dell's been, their slot guys. He's getting a few targets, but I don't think he really had many this game. I expect him to be a little bit more of a committee, like more spread out some games, but I still think, like you said, Collins is for sure the wide receiver 1 there.
Do you think he's a top 10, like Zub said? I know he's in top 10 this week. You think he's top 10 for the season?
Top 10 is hard just because they have so much talent around him. I think it's possible. Probably maybe more like top 15, I would say.
Even with the like, you know, Jamar Chase falling off, Amon-Ra falling off, like even with the top guys kind of struggling to start the season, you don't think that there's a chance?
I think there's a chance. I don't.
I think he's top 12 for sure.
Yeah.
Top 12.
Top 12, 15, yeah, I'd say.
Sounds.
I think Chase's problem right now. I mean, we haven't really mentioned him, but he had no practices until basically the day before the game, and so all of this is just practice for him. I think they get going just like they did last year. I mean, the Bengals started 0-3 or something last year, terrible. Everybody's like, they were one shot, and then they won a bunch of games in a row.
I think game this week, Washington and them, I think is going to be a good one.
Yeah. So I think Chase probably pitched it up. Chase probably could be wide receiver 1 this week because that defense has been terrible. I mean, they let the Giants score 3 touchdowns on them, and
well, look at what Neighbors did to him.
Exactly.
I mean, if Neighbors can do that, Chase is Neighbors with 3 years experience.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. And then I got a couple more things to talk about with the receivers. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, 16 targets. I mean, that's a massive target volume. I mean, Tyler Lockett only got 2 targets. So is this a changing of the guard for this receiving core? I mean, is it Metcalf and JSN that we've all been waiting on? I mean, I know a lot of people were even talking in the beginning of the season that this guy might be a bust, because of what happened last year. But, I mean, are you comfortable putting this guy in your lineup now, Sean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I actually just made a trade today to pick him up because I do anticipate that he is now the man in that offense. And I honestly think by the end of the season, he'll get more targets than DK on an average basis.
Somebody called that. We'll have to clip somebody calling that, a couple pods ago. But
no, I've been high on JSN all offseason. I thought for sure he was going to take Lockett's targets, and after watching this week and seeing how they made it a point to incorporate him after a slow week 1, I feel like that was on purpose, and that's a sign of things to come. It's not a flash in the pan.
Got you. All right, and I got an either or for you guys. If you had to start one of these 2 in your flex
this week or like moving forward?
moving forward.
Yeah.
Would it be Rashid Shaheed or Jamison Williams?
Shaheed.
Shaheed that quick, eh?
Yeah, I think
I don't
he's
know.
a more defined role in that offense right now.
I would say Jamison Williams just because he's been getting some good looks, especially like the first 2 weeks. He's been, I don't know, the most targeted player in that offense. I think Amon-Ra had more this week, but Jamison Williams had a lot last week.
See,
So
we're talking about moving forward for the whole season. I don't concede that. I don't foresee that being the case the whole year with them. I mean, they'll come a point where they're going to make it an effort to get Amon-Ra more involved.
I can't see Shaheed catching 50-yard touchdowns every week though. That's the thing.
But they're manufacturing multiple touches for him. They're playing him the way they played Jaden Reed last year in Green Bay. So, I think he could be that type of player that it doesn't have to be a deep pass. It doesn't have to be, a long touchdown in that aspect. It could be easily an end around or something of that nature. I think Shaheed has the confidence of that offense, but maybe a year ahead of J-Mo.
I just disagree. I think I just looked at his numbers. He's had 9 targets in 2 weeks. Shaheed has. I don't see the 50-yard touchdowns every week. I mean, it's going to be a great best ball play. I'm not comfortable playing a guy like.
You saw 9 targets, but how many end arounds? How many rushes? Right, probably
3.
At least 5.
No, 3 total.
3
total rushes.
So you're looking at 12 through. So that's 6 targets a game average. I mean, it's not terrible at all. What's J-Mo at?
This one I'm about to look at. Jamison Williams.
What do you think is that, Scott? Like I'm average maybe 8 on average per game.
All I know is going forward, I love the way they're using J-Mo in this offense. Everyone was saying he was just a go route guy, and he's actually running routes, doing reverses. So
you're on the J-Mo side of the bandwagon?
Yeah, I like the J-Mo side. I mean, I think Shaheed just might be, it seems like he always catches that long touchdown every game, and then kind of goes a little bit quiet. So
it's like a Dave Davis. I think somebody in one of my leagues called him Dave Davis 2.0. He was touchdown dependent. Jamison Williams had 20 targets his first 2 weeks, plus another 2 rushing.
So 10 a game. So 11 a game. 11 a game.
Yeah. So
right. So I mean, you're definitely making some good points, and my opinion could easily be swayed.
All right, let me give you guys another either or. Pick if you had to pick one of these 2 guys up from the waiver wire this week, would it be Quentin Johnson or Alec Pierce?
Johnston. You go with Pierce?
I go with neither. I like Pierce because
have an opportunity to be the number 1 target in that offense the way that they're moving the ball right now.
These are guys that are going to get some fab. I mean, Pierce might have been picked up last week, but definitely going to be picked up this week.
I think Pierce is he's in the role that Josh Downs will be, when he gets back. That's why I'm worried about Pierce. I'm not comfortable playing, Quentin Johnston any week. I think he had 2 touchdowns, but
how many targets has QJ had throughout weeks 1 through 2? Because I feel like week 1 wasn't 100% great for him, but week 2 he had
6. He had 6 targets and caught all 5 for 2 touchdowns and 51 yards. So at least he only dropped one of them unless it was not thrown his way.
Yeah, I can't trust him to catch the ball every time. He's had 11 targets through 2 weeks, so I
think his defined role makes the difference for me. He's got a defined role in an offense where, like you said, Josh Downs could come in and just make Alec Pierce like a backup guy. So
and that's what he really did last year, to Alec Pierce, because everybody was really big on Alec Pierce last year, and Josh Downs came in. So, but the Quentin Johnson, they played Carolina and Las Vegas. They haven't really played anybody. They're 2-0. I think they're going to be hurting here in a couple of weeks when they actually play some competition. So I'm not real comfortable picking up Quentin Johnson for that reason. But I agree with Sean. I'd probably pick him up over Alec Pierce just because of the defined role.
Got you. All right, let's move on to tight ends. So we'll do the top tight ends of the week. We got Kittle. We have Hunter Henry, Brock Bowers, the Brockness Monster. We got Trey McBride, Mike Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, Luke Shoemaker, Zach Ertz, Brendan Strange, and Mark Andrews has now hit the top 10. One guy I don't see on here for the second week in a row is
Here it comes.
Miss Dalton. Is his last name Kincaid? I think his last name is Dalton Kincaid. I don't see him in the top.
It's okay. Just remember that name because you'll start hearing it more and more often.
So it looks like Connor Henry might be the only show in town in New England. So he could be definitely a valuable guy to pick up if you just kind of punt it on tight end if he's still out there. But let's talk about the big fish here. And the big fish to me is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers looks like he is entrenched in the number 2 target in that offense. He had 9 targets, caught all 9 balls for 98 yards. I mean, give me some good vibes on Brock Bowers, Connor.
Yeah, he's looked great. A lot of targets. They're trying to get him the ball on screens. They're trying to get him the ball downfield. They're really manufacturing touches for him that I've loved to see. He's really complimented Adams really well. He's really become their number 2 target, even ahead of Jacoby Myers. So I loved watching that. I mean, I was really big on Bowers. I think I was like one of the only ones that have him in my top 10 tight ends coming in, but he's looked great.
All right. And then I'm going to go to Sean. And you know what? I'm not even going to stay in the top 10 because I'm going to go right to somebody that we would consider having a dud week. And from where he's being drafted, I mean, what needs to change for Dalton Kincaid, Sean? I mean, what's going on in this offense?
I mean, it's just he's been a victim of circumstance. That's really all it is, man. It's been game script and it's been situational football that has cost him. It's not much else. I mean, Josh Allen only threw for 150 fucking yards or something. So like, it's not like there was a lot of eggs to go around in that basket. So I definitely think that that Dalton will get better. I don't think that he's gonna be like maybe the tight end 1 like I anticipated, which is hard for me to say. But I definitely do think that he's still going to be in the top 5 by the end of the season, and he'll pick it up. I'm not worried about him at this point.
Okay. All righty.
In the head.
Kicked in the head. I mean, was he kicked in the head in week 1 also, or was it just in week 2 he was kicked in the head?
I don't know. Is that what's the JS mean? Is that
just saying?
I thought it was the name, like Justin Simmons kicked him in the head. Like I don't know.
I mean, this is another year just like last year where the top tight ends really haven't shown up week 1 or 2. I think Hunter Henry is tight end 1 week 1 last year. Mike Gesicki was like tight end 2.
I think that Hunter Henry is going to be consistent this year, though, because that offense has not got anybody else to throw to. I think he'll get the targets in that offense.
Yeah, I still don't see him as a top 5 tight end.
No,
top 10 maybe.
Yeah. I expect Kelsey. I expect Pitts. I expect Kittle to stay up there. I expect Mark Andrews to pick it up a little bit.
I mean, you think Pitts with the offense that they've been running that offense with Pitts? You really think that Pitts is still going to be viable? I'm a little concerned. Scott mentioned it the other day, actually. So, curious.
I mean, I still think so. I think he still has tons of talent. That offense really hasn't looked that well until the last drive of last night. And I mean,
I did tell Sean yesterday when I was watching the game that, I'm sure, I don't know if everybody was watching this, but there's a lot of times I would just watch the play develop and I would just target in on looking at Pitts and what he was doing. And a lot of pass routes, like he was like looking for someone to block, or he wasn't even running a route. He was just kind of like in pass protect. So he wasn't even really running routes. They're not splitting them out wide like they do Bowers, and Kincaid and stuff. They're just, I'm getting pretty concerned with Pitts, in that offense. I mean, I hope it changes, but I mean, they were in kind of catch up mode. I mean, it was back and forth in the second half, and I think he only got 1 reception, maybe 2, but he just doesn't seem like he's really involved in that offense now. It's basically just Bijan, Algier, and then Drake London, and actually Mooney looks like he's getting more looks than Pitts is. So I'm very concerned with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'll disagree. I think he'll pick it up. I think he's still top 7 tight end in points, but there's not. Tight ends has just been down so far this year. I think Laporta was like the number 1 tight end off the board, and he's not anywhere to be found. So I'll disagree.
All righty.
So
Well,
yeah, head out for a couple minutes. So
we lose Sean. I was just about ready to go into the mid stakes redraft analysis. But before, we'll wait for Sean to get back. But I just want to get into everything we've been doing. So please like and subscribe to the podcast. That would really help us out. We really appreciate it. And then if you look at the bottom of the screen in our ticker, that's our new website, theballsvillegame.com. Tools are being updated daily. It's coming together really good. It looks pretty cool. So definitely get in there and check out, that website. That's going to be your one-stop shop for all your Ballsville fantasy needs. So I hope Sean gets in here pretty fast, but if he doesn't, I can just go right through the leagues. So
we could touch on some pub subs. How are your pub subs doing?
You got the list?
I don't have the list up, but I didn't know if you had any that you've been liking so far. Or
well, I mean, I just lost one over this week with the Derek Carr to Ken, so that didn't work out very good. I'm not
Jordan. Sadly, your Jordan Love one is a little hurting just because of his injury, but
right.
And that was one of the reasons I really didn't want to prop bet on him, because of the if I prop betted on him, I felt like I was betting against injury.
Right. You all right, Sean?
Yeah, sorry, I had a pet emergency I had to go take care of for a second. So sorry about that.
Fine. All right. Well, what we were just saying that we're just about ready to get into the mid stakes analysis for Ballsville redraft leagues. So if you got the slides, if you want to pop up the league number 1, Raiden.
Absolutely.
Well, that's league number 2.
Number 2? Oh, hang on one second. Give me Oh, do we not have? I might not have grabbed one.
Okay, I got one. I got one. If you just want me to go through one.
Yeah, go ahead and start with one. I'm sorry, I didn't have it up here.
All right. So what you're gonna see here is you're gonna see something a little bit different. Last week, when we did the high stakes leagues and the low stakes, we didn't see too many analysts on there that you guys see in the pod on a normal basis. We didn't show that well in the high stakes and the low stakes, but in the mid stakes, you will see quite a bit of us in here. So I will go to the mid stakes one. It's Raiden, and these are $50 buy-ins. And number 1, 308 points. He's 2-0. It's Super LBS, and that's Gary, who's been on the pod a few times. He comes in at number 1. We have Rookie at number 2 at 301. Mudbugs, who's Dal Taylor at 272, and then Team Tecolote at 265.70. So just outside the top 4, it's short stack 11 with 260. So that's league number 1.
All right, give me just 2 seconds here, and I actually, while you were talking about it, I went ahead and brought it up for the whole crew to see. So here's your list of mid 1 right here for you guys.
Yep. So we got an analyst in there at the number 1 spot, which is pretty nice. We're going to be representing these mid stakes leagues quite a bit. So go ahead and bring up 2. 2, we got Smoke. So in Smoke, we got Mike's the Guy, 279. T Zillin, 18 at 270. K Doggy Dog at 257. And then Justin Brown, 88 at 293. We have 3 2-0 teams in that one.
Wow. It's pretty epic.
So number 3, we have Sub-Zero. And at the top, we have
one of our boys who also helps me out with the tool section in our website. He's been on the pod a bunch of times. I call Gibbs. It's JoJo, 333.78. We got Phil 39.88 at 322. And we have Mike's the Guy again. He's in at 285. And then I don't even want to say Vikatura at 234. I don't know. I'm horrible at these names. But it looks like we got I love hearing you do it.
I know, it's so bad. I butcher them all. So it looks like we have 4 2-0 teams in this league, and we're represented by JoJo. So congrats, JoJo, representing us. So we'll head over to number 4 with Knob Slob. And number 1, we have Team Brady. His Team
Did you
Brady
just say knob slob?
That's what I was called, Knob Slob. I don't know. Sell it, but I mean, I
I think
knew
we should
some.
change it to knob slob. I like that better.
Yeah. So is Brady? Is that our guy? Brady's our guy, isn't he?
I don't know.
I
I don't
think
know. I
so.
don't think so.
He pops in Discord quite a bit, and he was supposed to help us out, and then he had to go back to school, and he was going to game manage him stuff, and he didn't. I'm wondering if this is him, but it's Brady D 309. We have Finch GD 303, and we have Chiefs Life 13, who's usually always finishes at the top. He's 265, and then
He might be our most experienced guillotine player, actually.
yeah. Oh, Chiefs.
Yeah.
And then we have Great Danish, the Great Danishes at 310. So that's the mid 4 right there. We have 3 teams at 2-0. So now we step over to mid 5. It's Liu Kang. And at the top, we got Mr. Benduinas. We have the Ducky Roosters, 308. Mike's the guy again at 239. There's Short Stack 11 at 317 and Pablo Escobar at 292. And we have 2 teams at 2-0. Number 6, Kung Lao. We got Eddie Money, 18 at 314. B Silver 88 at 290. Charleston Neal, 42 at 262. And Sima at 1231 at 248. And all 4 of these teams are 2-0. So congrats to them. League number 7, Reptile. Pablo Escobar's 2-0 at 335. There's our buddy JoJo representing 2-0, 287. We have Jaltoff 4, 296. And then Cash Money Teddy Bears, Mr. Been doing this. Like that name, 284. And only 2 teams are 2-0. Congratulations to the 2-0 teams. Now we're going to get over into mid 8, which is our
We can
pod
skip
league.
this one. We can skip this one.
That's our pod league. And I know why Sean wants to skip this one. But yeah, this is our pod league. So a lot of the players here are from the pod or players that come into the chat and give us a lot of feedback in the chat. So in this league, we got Batulak, the Gino
Grigio.
322.
Gino Grigio.
So he must have been one of the chat guys that was in there. So yeah, he's at 322. We got Connor. Connor's sitting at number 289, 2-0. We got JoJo again,
Lucky.
representing big time in these mid stakes at 2-0. He's 285. And then we have Grizz Tony. He's been on the pod once and he's been in chat quite a bit. He's 298. So I'm going to go to Connor since you're here. What do you think about this team that you got there? He's on mute.
Yeah, he doesn't. Nobody cares. Obviously.
No, this is one of my better teams. I think this is probably I did 3 mid-stakes leads, and you'll see.
Is this the one I drafted for you?
No, this is the one that y'all had a pod lead on. I think y'all are in 6th place. Where if you want to look at that team, I don't know if you can bring it up, Sean, but y'all drafted like all together. You, Sean, or you, Scott, and
Sarah,
Ken, and Sarah all drafted one team. I think it turned out pretty well. I think y'all are 1-1, but my team I drafted. I think. Kamara, Justin Jefferson. I think I had the first pick in this league. I have Josh Allen, Marvin Harrison, Jalen Waddle, Tank Dell, Brock Bowers, all those guys. I haven't really had any injuries, so knock on wood on that in that league, which is always good. So I'm pretty confident in my team moving forward. I seem to be pretty good. My points against is pretty high, so I haven't really had many easy matchups just yet. So hopefully I'll keep it moving forward in this league. But my best team is in mid 10, as we'll see.
I still think Chris Tony is better since he has a 288 points against. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean he's still 1-1 though. So
all right,
one because of his points against.
Yeah. Well, good job, C-Bomb. So we will get on bid number 9, which is Katana, and sitting at the top is your host.
Oh, we could totally skip this one.
The Sun Lounger, he's 2-0 at 315. We got Team Cash at 2-0 at 307. We got What's Up, Brother? That's sorry for cussing. He's usually into the chat. I don't see him here today. 296. And then Zubakis, who's been on the pod. So we're well represented in the top 4 here. He's at 289. And
gotta give Zub some love, man, because this must be one of the 1 or 2 teams that he didn't draft Puka in.
Yeah, he probably didn't draft Puka, and he might not have had Pacheco on this team. I don't know. He would have
might have listened to one of us and took Raheed Shaheed late and was able to stick with it. You know,
I just want to talk about something we talked about a little bit earlier in the pod. Did you draft any RBs early in this league?
Me?
Yeah. Like who are your starting running backs?
I did not. If you look, and I'll read off my roster, and you can
it's only 2 weeks.
You can tell how well built this roster is when you go wide receiver heavy. Yeah. So my quarterbacks are A-Rich and Daniels, so I went for those mobile quarterbacks, which I usually don't do. I stay away from them. But I ended up having Amon-Ra is my I have 3 ones at the receiver position. Amon-Ra, Mike Evans, and Malik Neighbors. I have the stud tight end at Brock Bowers. And then if you wait on running backs like Connor and I do, here's my running back stable. I got Joe Mixon, late round pick. Najee Harris, late round pick. Brian Robinson, who looks like he's a stud, late round pick. And Jerome Ford hasn't been too bad. So pretty nice roster, probably one of the better ones I put together. So that's a quality roster if you
guys,
draft,
I think we need to stop talking about our team so much because this is not about us. Okay.
Yeah.
This is about the listeners.
I think there's one name that we haven't really talked about having a team on any of these lists.
Hey man, these pods are about the listeners, buddy. We need to do the things that they need. Okay. We're not talking about our teams. They don't need to hear about that.
Alex makes the point that they're mid-round picks. They're mid-round picks, but to us, they're mid-round picks, but to Sean and other RB drafters, they're late-round picks because they don't want to be bothered with those running backs because they're taking the ones early.
Mixon was the highest drafted one. I mean, what round did he go in? 6, 7, probably a little after that. Huh?
No, something. I think he was probably closer to the 4th round, but
let's see, 4th. There's no way.
When did you pick him? You picked him, Scott. When did you take Mixon?
I'm sure it was like 6, 7 range because if I obviously I took it was super flex. I took, Richardson and Daniels in the top, Amon-Ra in the top, Mike Evans in the top, Malik Neighbors in the top. So you're looking 6, 7 rounds.
It was 605, so 6th round.
Yeah, early 6th.
Yeah. As your first running back, I mean,
not bad. So all right, enough of gloating there. But as you can see, there was a couple game managers.
Let's go to Sang Soo, mid 10.
So we'll go to Sang Soo. We'll go to the mid 10, and I mean at the top again.
Oh, we can skip this one too. Actually,
looks like Connor's up there, 324.
Yeah, well, I want to give Sean some credit. This is the lead. I went running back in the 2nd round. Oh my gosh, I went Breece Hall in the 2nd round. I went Jamar Chase and Breece Hall to start.
And is it just me, or is that the highest points for of any of the teams that we've looked at?
Oh, it's actually, I think it's 2nd out of all the mid-states leagues, but the first team went 0. If you want to, I don't know if you can pull the screenshot up. That
we don't need to go through all that.
I'll go through the rest of the standings. So Connor, you're 2-0, 324. Then we got Thrill Kill, 296. He's 2-0. We got the Punishers. Mr. Ben, he's up there again, 295, and then Ketowing 22 at 235. So we have 4 2-0 teams in that mid. Yeah, so it's we got a lot of mids here that are 2-0, and we're well represented by the podcast crew and game managers. So yeah, that wraps up the mid stakes. And so is there anything else you guys want to last parting shots before we get on out of here, guys?
Who do you think the most rostered player is out of the top 10? Like all those top, mid-states league, who do you think the most rostered? Like, if you had to guess, I mean, I don't think we can probably pull it up here, but
like out of the top teams that are scoring.
Who do you think the top player, like lead winner for the first 2 weeks? Who do you think it'd be?
Jeez, I don't know. There's so many good players. I don't know.
I'd have to say somebody like a J.K. Dobbins or a Heed Shaheed, just because of the fact that they're late round picks that have been superstars.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know obviously the answer, but
I think
know
maybe Neighbors. Neighbors
answer
might be
too.
one. Neighbors.
I think my teams,
Neighbors.
both of my teams that are in first or second, and I'm only in 3, both have Kamara. And then the number 1 player is Pablo. He's in mid-states. Let me see what league. Mid-state 7. Mid-state 7 has the best team, and he also has Kamara. So just on a small sample size, it looks like it probably is Kamara. But I like I said, I don't have
the first 2 weeks. It makes sense.
I don't have the the exact answer, but I just wondered what y'all are thinking of. Who do you think it could be?
Sean, you got any closing thoughts?
I'd just like to say, something real quick about how amazing the Bills have been playing and how everybody wanted to hate on my team and talked about how we would be last in our division and how horrible we're going to be and yada, yada, yada. And now we're sitting at literally behind the Chiefs, second in the power rankings because we are that good. We will always be that good with Josh Allen. Stop hating, start loving.
All right. Well, I see Mr. Ben just chimed in. What's up, Ben? He's in the chat. But that's another episode of the Ballsville Pod. We'll be back on Friday. We'll be going over some probably the Thursday night review. Probably get into some start sits and some trades. So if you guys have trades and start sits, please join us and we'll answer any questions you guys have. Like I said, like and subscribe to the podcast. Go to the website at theballsvillegame.com. And for my co-host Sean, from the good old boy down in West Texas, Connor. Until next time, Ballsville Gamers, we are out.
Later.